So the question is this: how do coaches, experts, and thought leaders create a sustainable 6 or 7 figure coaching business, all while having fun and changing lives? If you want to know the secrets to getting leads on demand, getting paid whatever you desire for the clients you serve, and changing their lives every single day, this is the right podcast for you.
I'm Sterling Griffin, and this is the Life Changer Podcast.
Welcome back to the Life Changer Podcast. Today, I got a very special guest on, a very special episode. Normally, we don't do interviews all that often here on the show, but I wanted to bring in a guest expert on a topic that, quite frankly, I didn't spend a lot of energy on in my first few years in business, and just kind of ignored this most critical area by and large. But one of my good friends is joining us on the show today. His name is Perez, and Perez is the founder of a branding agency called Branding for the People. He is it's a 7-figure agency. He's been in business for a long time and has done branding for a lot of brands you probably have heard of, probably already know, whether working at a high level for very big companies or other smaller companies with his agency. He is a true branding expert, the best person I know in the space, and he just came out with a freaking awesome pink book called Your Brand Should Be Gay. So anyway, thanks for joining me on the show today, man.
Thanks for having me, Sterling. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So talk to me about how you got into this business, brother. Why are you, why are you a branding expert today? I'm just curious to hear a little bit of your background, because most of my audience, fit pros, trainers, they may not know.
Well, how meta do you want me to get? So let's see. There's the professional pathway, and then there's like the personal pathway. And so
I'm really interested in the personal.
Yeah, I figured as much. Well, it's one of those things that I sort of subconsciously fell into. Like, I think all roads led to me being a branding person. And what I mean by that is I didn't consciously say, I'm going to run a branding agency. But what ended up happening with my whole life's journey of being unsure who I am, being questioned of my identity, not knowing who am I, what was I meant to be, maybe even just always trying to conform to what maybe others probably thought that I think that they should be, that I should be. I used to tell this story a very few times. In fact, I just told it about an hour ago to a friend, and so I'll share it on this podcast interview. But when I was, when my mother was pregnant with me, I was, my dad was stationed overseas. He was in the military. And someone spread a rumor that my mom cheated on my dad. And I was a product of that. And so, that whole journey, imagine I was just born and my identity was questioned. Who I was questioned by my own very father. It's not my father's fault, but it was just someone put that in his head. And so I kind of was grew into this thing of I had to prove who I was. I had to prove my identity. And so that sort of trickled into just every aspect of growing up, as kids, we go through the journey of trying to find out who we are. Even just with my own sexuality of being unsure if this is who I was, or questioning that. And all these different things sort of laddered up. I was it wasn't really safe to be me. And so branding really became an art form for me to first find out my own identity, and then being able to help other people and other businesses find their own identity and really get to that core soul level of who are you and who are you not, so that you can put that in your marketing, that in your messaging, that in your design and how you show up, because that's what people want. They want to buy who you are and who you're not.
I love this, man. One thing that you came and spoke at my event, maybe it was 8 months ago now, one of my in-person events. Man, I wish we could do in-person events now, right?
Right. Yeah.
Hashtag quarantine life over here. Can't do that right now. But you came and you talked about creating an authentic brand. I feel like a lot of your messaging is around that idea. It's not just have, a powerful brand, not just have a revenue generating brand, but being authentic, really building a brand that's authentic to you, especially when we're talking about personal branding. You need to be really authentic. So I'm just curious, the name of your book is called Your Brand Should Be Gay. Can you talk about the reason for that title and why? Because it's definitely like, what the fuck just happened? That's what I feel when I hear it. So can you talk about the story of it, man?
Well, it's perfect. So in all fairness, I should probably reveal to those listening in that the full book title is Your Brand Should Be Gay, in parentheses, even if you're not. And the subtitle is The Art and Science of Creating an Authentic Brand. And so if you really think about it, I'm actually teaching the power of branding through my own book title, which is, it's intended to, that reaction you said, like, what the fuck just happened, right? Like it's meant to grab your attention. Branding is designed to sort of pique your curiosity. And by the way, within 10 seconds or less, you're either intrigued and want to know more, or you're offended, or you're turned off, or you're, whatever, triggered, and you look in the other direction. And either way, it's totally cool with me, but that's what a great brand does. It polarizes your audiences, and it puts on loudspeaker who you are to the world, so that you give them an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm down with that, or I'm not. And there's some real power as a brand, whether you're building a personal brand or a business brand. There's some real power in the knowing of who you are and being okay that you're not going to be accepted by or attract every single person, but the people that you do attract are gonna freaking love you. And that's what you want. So I wrote that title also in a way of my own coming out. It's not like I was really in the closet, but it's not like it's something I really talk about. If you've guessed it, awesome. But now it's kind of like, well, if I'm embodying my own authentic self, then I'm going to come up with a branding book. I'm going to be different. I'm going to have a pink covered book. How many pink covered books do you see out there? And it's going to be bold letters, and it's going to be in your face. Your brand should be gay, even if you're not. So it's kind of my own way of just being fully empowered, being myself, even on my own freaking book.
Ree, I love this. So talk to me about polarizing a little bit, polarization, because I feel like, you work with entrepreneurs, you've worked with people at all different stages of business revenue. And so have I. I mostly work with people, though, that are just kind of getting their business started, just getting off the ground and up to about that 7-figure mark. And that's about where I've brought people so far. Yeah. And one of the big issues that I see when people are coming in is they're afraid to hurt some feelings. Okay. They're afraid to be offensive. They're afraid to, turn some people off. And as a result, they kind of just fall into this being super vanilla, whether it's with their content or their ads or the way they message people or chat with people. It's like, it's all just robotic in a sense. It's all just, let me make sure everybody's happy. Can you talk about the danger of what happens in business and in branding when you show up like that, and then the importance of instead being polarizing?
Yeah. So I think the first part to unpack that is even just the reframe of, for those listening in, because the experience can feel like there's some danger around it, or if you reframe that, the experience there could be some real power around that. What I mean is, here's the deal. It's like, you will offend people. You will turn off some people. You will not resonate with every single person. But you have to be willing to not, okay, so I know your audiences, right? So if you're just going after everyone, you're really going after no one, right? So if you are just taking on a client or a customer or whatever, purely before the money, purely because you feel like you have to grow your business, and this person, this client or customer may not be an ideal fit for you, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to filling up your space with those people who are your hell yeah clients, your customers that you will bend over backwards to do anything with and for, and that are going to value you, that are going to appreciate what you provide. So you're robbing yourself of that opportunity. So I don't look at it as a danger. I look at it as more like that's real power of being able to fill up your space with the people that you were meant to serve, the people that you were meant to help. And that synergy of a client, a service provider and a client relationship, when that's symbiotic, you could do some magical things together.
Well, talk to me about this, Rhea. I'm curious for you personally. Have you ever gone through a season where you were just taking clients because, or working with certain people because, you need the money, or you just thought this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to have clients that are always like this, whatever. And then, that lead to some struggle. Has that been something that's personal for you?
Yeah. So I can think how I would relate to that. This is my 10th year in business. How I would relate to that is in 3 different stages of my business. So in the first couple of years, and I sort of get this, if you're just starting out in your business, I sort of get, because I was once there where you're like, all right, let me just find anyone who will give me money.
Right.
So
right. I've been there too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, let me just find anyone. It's like, all right, cool. $200, fine, let's do it.
Yeah.
Anything is a lot of money when you're not making anything, when you're just starting out. But in that stage, sure, I suppose that you may not be in the position to turn down everyone, but what you want to use that opportunity, and what I've learned from that opportunity, is it actually gave me it was crystal clear that not everyone with a credit card was meant to be my client. And so the clients that I was taking on were, don't get me wrong, I've actually took on some amazing clients, but also I took on some clients that were so not a fit. It was just for the money. It felt like work. The person wasn't the right fit in that they weren't going to do the work to get the transformation that they came for. And they end up costing more energy and heartbreak and heartache because you had to just deal with that lack of congruent fit. So I had to experience that in my first few years of business. But I related to it as an opportunity for me to sort of cut out and get crystal clear who is my target audience. Then the second stage was I was on this path of like growing and scaling, and we were just taking every client because we could, because we had the team, we had the infrastructure, because we had the reputation. And so you're like, all right, we could do that, we could do this. And so that can be exciting for a business when they're in that massive growth phase. And the challenge with that is that sometimes when you lean on the other side of you're taking clients to make payroll, there's a danger in being able to take on clients because you were meant to work with them, as opposed to just because you're making payroll. Because then you run into this trap of diminishing returns where you're really just taking on more clients so you can take on more people, so you have more expenses, and then your profitability goes down. So I kind of pass that stage. And so in that sense, there is a little bit of a danger if you're actually taking on more clients as opposed to turning down clients. But I think the third area for me where I'm in right now is that sometimes, not any of the current clients that I'm working with now, in case they're listening in, but sometimes
I hate this person. And they're working with me right now. Their name is...
I would say that sometimes you follow the 80-20% rules. So when and I have a very stable business and we're growing, sometimes there's always going to be 10 or 20% of your clients that may not be your 100% ideal client that you want to replicate. However, they're a sufficient enough client that they pay their bills. There's a consistent revenue stream. You do good work. It's like they're 80% there. And that's not to diminish the work that we do or that client by any stretch of imagination. The point here is that I always target the ideal raving fans and clients because, and you're always going to get other people outside of that target. But if you target that core group and you speak to that core group, those are the people that are going to be evangelists of your brand. And so it's not just the money that you're making from that client to serve them. It's the trickling effect of them sharing it with more people and being recommending you and referring you, et cetera.
That's so good. That's so good. Because, if you focus on clients which are a more ideal fit for you, that are better, better fit, not just financially, but energy wise,
Yeah.
then those are the kind of clients that become the biggest generators of new business for you.
That's
bringing
right.
you referrals, continuing to pay you after the initial engagement, buying something else from you.
That's right.
But the other people, they suck way more energy. They suck 80% of the energy actually out of you and give you 20% of the return or less. One of the biggest decisions I made, I realized this probably about 9 months into my career, that I had a couple clients that were super, super not a fit and just were like really sucking the life out of me. They got so much of my energy. I mean, just hours and hours and hours every single week. And it was always what you're talking about, not implementing, not getting it. Their mindset was all screwed up and they were blaming me for the problems, all that kind of stuff. And I just realized, this is not worth it. The money that I'm getting paid is not worth my personal happiness, losing my personal happiness over this. So I refunded them and sent them away. And I said, hey, bless you. I just realized now that this relationship is not serving me. And so I need to let you go. And it was the best thing I ever did, because then all of a sudden I've got all this extra space in my calendar to attract in the kind of people that I love hanging out with, that I love serving, that do the work, that get results, that refer to their friends, and on and on.
That's right. Yeah, that's good.
So Ree, I'm curious, can you talk to me about, you shared this at our event back in October, and I'd love I know you talk about it in your book, but the 3 keys to building an authentic brand, because authenticity is so key with branding, especially in the way that you coach it, teach it, build it out for companies. Can you talk about those 3 keys?
Sure. So the first thing is, I believe a brand, when you're building a brand, it's got to be something that you can credibly own and deliver upon, right? So there's this domain of having a brand that's credible. Meaning, if you are an expert at helping people lose weight or get healthier or whatever that is, what makes you a credible person to do that? Is it your training? Is that you've gone through that own transformation yourself? Your story, your certifications, your hours of whatever, right? You get the point. It's like, what can you credibly own? Okay, that's one piece of it, but that's a third of the puzzle. The second piece is, what makes you unique or different in the category? And so while there's a lot of other people out there that can help me lose weight or get fit or get in shape or whatever the outcome is, what makes me unique as a brand relative to all the other people that are saying that they can do the same thing? The third thing, because that's also still part of the story.
Hold on, before you go to the third thing.
Yeah.
Before you go to the third thing, I'm going to interrupt you here.
Please.
Talk about being unique, because I feel like I can almost hear some of the voices back, which is saying, well, I don't know if I am unique. I feel like I'm the same as everybody else. I really struggle with figuring out how I am different. How do you how do you coach someone that's struggling to kind of get started on that piece of how they're unique?
Yeah. So I start with looking at your own persona, your own personality, your own values. Sometimes it's your process, your protocol. Sometimes it is your approach and your methodology. And so at the end of the day, when I'm saying what makes you unique, I really am talking about your unique personality. And we all have our own individual personality. One might be more aggressive. One might be a bit more, sort of laid back, fill in the blank with the adjectives, right?
Right.
But, one might be a drill sergeant. One might be more of like a, more, friendly and nurturing and coddling. I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
But the point is that your personality is a big part of what differentiates you. But the other areas to look at is, again, maybe your approach. Maybe you're combining a couple different techniques that aren't normally combined. Maybe you're influencing, and obviously speaking to your audiences, right? So maybe there's a way that you help incorporate nutrition with an exercise routine or whatever that is. Let's think of, P90X, right? Their whole thing was like muscle confusion. So that's like one thing that made them unique. It's not about muscle memory, it's about muscle confusion. So finding out like your message, your story, your voice, your personality, there's many different ways to look at it. Now, even if you're running across that point where like, well, everyone in my space are largely very much the same as me. Really hard to differentiate myself. I get that. There's some industries where, okay, well, at the end of the day, you're the same as everyone else. So then you look to the third area, which is the third domain, which is what makes you the most relevant to your target audiences. What do they care about, and speak into that? So it's the intersection really of credibility, being unique, and being relevant to your target audiences is where you want to play. Now, I usually show this sort of Venn diagram where all three circles aren't in equal size. In some cases, being unique, to your point, Sterling, may not be the most important factor in your brand.
That's good news.
You just probably need to be relevant. There's some businesses I actually don't really care. There's some brands I don't actually really care how unique or different. I just care that you work for me, right? So that's where you have to kind of dance between. That's why I said it's the intersection. That's where you have to dance between which one is most important for your target audiences. Some industries, just one other thought as I'm thinking out loud with this, is that there's some industries where they might be different, they might be relevant, they have all the right messaging, but by and large, a lot of the people in that profession lack the credentials, the education, the expertise, the sophistication in their pedigree, whatever. And so their credibility seems to be more important than everything else that sort of, at the end of the day, differentiates them. But it's the intersection of these three things that I mentioned, as that's the sweet spot for creating a more authentic brand. Go ahead.
I love relevant. Can you talk to me about what makes someone relevant? Because what comes up for me when I hear you say that is sometimes being relevant is just being the person that they most recently saw or noticed. Okay. Because like, for example, like in my process with my customers, I teach them how to either market through advertising using social media ads, whether that's through posting content on social media, and not just, on their personal profiles, like on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, but also posting in communities where they can be seen, they can be visible for the first time. So sometimes being relevant, I feel like, is just being in front of someone. You gotta be the credible person with a process that works. And sometimes it's just the right time. You just showed up when they were ready, and then they become your client.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. I love what you said about being relevant is also just kind of like being like people being aware of you, like you just being there. I would assert that while that's part of it, I think the other part of that is this is where marketing comes into play. So you can build a brand that is relevant, but it doesn't matter if no one knows who you are. So that's where you need marketing to work cohesively with branding to get your brand awareness out there. So of course, awareness is a key factor in being relevant. But let's just operate from the assumption that people already know, that people are aware of your brand. And even that, like, let's say we're talking about cold traffic and they have 15 seconds to sort of for you to grab their attention. What I mean by being relevant in this case is are you solving their problem, their wake up in the middle of the night problem? So how to be more relevant with your target audiences, I look at two things. The first one is, what is your ability to impact them with your solutions in solving their problems, right? Because who doesn't want their problems to be solved, right? So that's how you can be relevant. Hey, I can help you solve this problem. You want to lose 10 pounds? Great, I can help you solve that problem. The other factor that I look at when it comes to being relevant is what are your values and belief systems, your operating principles. If you really think about it, Sterling, I think one of the reasons why you and I get along, and probably why you get along with the people you get along with, is that you all share a same set of common values beliefs, mindset, understanding. When you were talking about those clients that weren't a fit, probably it had to do with that you weren't aligned with the mindset. Because you and I both know that when you're aligned with them, I mean, your mindset sort of dictates your actions. And so you can change people's actions, but if you're not aligned at the level of their mindset and their beliefs, it's questionable whether or not you'll be aligned with their actions. So that's how I look at being relevant: solve people's problems and share a same set of common values and belief systems and ethos.
So this is so fascinating to me because sometimes I struggle with understanding the connection between, say, branding and copywriting. Okay, which I'm sure copywriting is a piece of how you express a brand in a way that connects with people. But recently I've started to make a deeper dive study into copywriting. Like, I'm buying courses on it. I'm doing certain practices on it, and I'm learning like how great copywriting, so much of the time, is just about tapping into the emotions that the person is experiencing. It's by being able to, like, viscerally with imagery, describing their emotions in a way that connects with them, connects with the other person, and then describing with like equal intense imagery what it's like on the other side of that problem. Whether it's and primarily telling through stories. Like, great copywriting is almost always about a story, whether of the person that's their personal story or of a client or something like that. And so can you talk about the connection between good branding and how good branding can set up good copywriting on the marketing side?
So they work in both directions. So let me start with the answering the first part of the question. So I believe that branding is about creating a perception over time, whereas marketing, and particularly direct response marketing, is about grabbing your attention right now. And so when you get clear on how do you want to be perceived over time, it should influence the exact copy that you're using, right? The other way, in the other direction, is the copy that what you're saying has a correlation in terms of people's derived perception of you. Okay, so I like to use this example all the time, which is, if I walked into your event and I said, I'm the smartest person in this room. That's what I said. That was my copy. I just said it out loud. Well, everyone might say, well, who's this jackass, right? Who's this asshole? However, if I walked into the room and I looked at how do I look, what do I say, and how do I behave? So how I show up, how I dress, what are the words that are coming out of my mouth? What's the tone and the language and the choice of words that I'm using? And then how do I behave and interact? And do I know more about the subject matter than everyone else in the room? Then I would derive the perception, the brand, that I'm the smartest person in the room. And so the point is, like, they work hand in hand. I'm just from the thought process of, okay, rather than overtly communicating what you want people to think about you, show up in a way such that you create the perception that you want. Now, in parentheses, there's a very specific function and utility to direct response copywriting, which is to get someone to take an action right now. I would say absolutely deploy that as a tool, but it's a tactic and it's a tool. And if it's not aligned with your brand, let's say your brand is, I'm just making this up, right? But let's say your brand was transparency and it had some degree of like non-manipulation as a core value. Then if you're using manipulative copywriting tactics, then that's actually off brand.
That's off brand.
You might use copywriting, you might use direct response copywriting that's less manipulative, but that's more inspirational and that's more encouraging to get someone to take action. Whether they do or not, hey, I'm just encouraging you, take it or not, take it or leave it or not. But
makes a lot of sense, man. So then talk to me about this. Let's say that someone comes to you just comes up off the street and they're like, read Perez, oh my gosh, can I have your autograph? They've got your brand should be gay with them, asking you to sign it. But then they say, well, I've read the book and I'm just having trouble like figuring out where to start right now. Can you help me, get started on building my brand? Where do I begin? And let's say in context, this is a person that is an established business owner. There's somebody that's already getting clients, service-based business. How do you help them establish their brand? Like, what's that process that you're going to bring that person through?
Sure. And this is the scenario is based on the person having read my book or just picked it up?
They just picked it up. Listen, they did what everybody does. They bought the book and it's pretty on the shelf, and it actually is pretty on the shelf, but they haven't gone through it yet, because obviously your book would tell them the story, right?
It would. No, I'm being facetious. But so here's the thing. I always like to ask, well, not always, but a lot of times I like to ask that question with a question, which is, and there's actually two questions that come up, and they're basically the same coin, just different sides of the same coin. And the first question is, what is the business problem that you're trying to solve through branding? Okay, meaning something's not working in your business. You're not attracting the right clients. You're not converting as well. You're not appealing to the right audiences. You're losing customers, right? And your brand, you want to go through the branding process to solve those business problems. Now, the other side of the same coin, the question is asked in this way, which is, what is the branding problem that you're trying to solve? In other words, what's the perception problem that you're trying to solve? Oh, we're not perceived as legitimate. We're not perceived as friendly. We're not perceived as clear or trustworthy. So now you have a perception problem that you need to solve, and that's where you go to work. So I like to say the first part really is trying to figure out what is the problem that you're trying to solve first. Okay. Then you take you through that process. I'll start on a macro level, which is first define, okay, well, how do you need to be perceived? What's the desired perception? That's your brand strategy. Then how do I need to look and sound? That's your brand identity. That's phase 2. And then phase 3 is like, okay, where do I need to express my brand? Through what vehicles, what channels, and what tactics and tools in order to attract leads and to move leads into clients and customers. So that's on a macro level, and but it starts there first before if you want to dive into any sort of tactical stuff. But you have to set the foundation for any kind of branding process, because if you just come at it with a very tactical approach, you're missing the real opportunity and real power of branding.
This is so good. This is so good. So talk to me about, like, what is, when someone's going through this branding process, they've identified, okay, here's the problem I'm trying to solve with branding. Okay, now the problem they're trying to solve is I'm attracting people that are, actually, let me take it this direction, because I was just thinking of this while you were describing this. So I thought it was cool. So you talked about the look and feel that you want someone to experience when they're seeing your brand. Like, how do you need to look? How do you need to dress? Maybe sometimes it's like, how do you want to stand? What gestures do you want to use? How do you want your tone of voice to sound? Are you loud? Or are you soft? Are you talking fast? Or are you talking slow?
Right.
And
right.
I thought about somebody that's trying to train, say, postpartum moms. Someone that wants to work with that person. How do they need to show up? Well, in their pictures, they're probably going to be holding a baby. Okay. They're right. They're probably gonna be talking about, the negative feelings that happen on the other side of pregnancy, where you have all these highs with the baby being born, and then there's that depression that you go through. It's just like relating in that way. Maybe if they're a guy trying to train moms, then they would be playful about it, like make a joke about it and wear like long blonde hair, wig or something, and like wear some maternity clothes or something just to play with it, have fun with it. It just got me thinking, like, how does someone go through that process of identifying, how do they make that connection between this is what this person is going through, dealing with, experiencing, looking for, and then also how do I show up in a way? How do they then take that and decide how they're going to show up?
They're going to show up visually
to attract visually.
And it's not just a matter of like finding tiger outfits or anything like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's not make this personal. Okay, Ree. Glad you like that.
So having fun here. So the question is, how do you define how you should look, right? And in essence, it's kind of what you're saying. So I still go back to my three column or my three circles of approach, right? Like let's just talk about credibility again, and relevant and being unique. Because here's the thing, you might have your own personal style. And that's a big part of, let's just say, how you show up visually in your own style. Or you might like the color pink or yellow, right? Or blue. And fine, yes, absolutely use those colors in your branding if that's what you like. Now, let's just say hypothetically, your target audiences, 90% of them hate the color yellow. I'm not saying this is the case, because why wouldn't they? I mean, yellow is such a great color.
Thank you. It is. It's the best color.
It's a great color. But let's just say your target audience is, I'll just use me, right? The pink, right? I actually don't wear a lot of pink clothes. I don't have a lot of pink clothes. I'm using pink as a way, as part of my company brand. It's, whatever, it stands out. It's all, but I personally don't wear a lot of pink. I like pink. I will absolutely wear pink on occasion. It's not my favorite color. Does it differentiate me in the category? Absolutely, yes. All the branding books are either red or black or blue or whatever. So yes, from a differentiating perspective, boom, pink book. Now, from a relevant perspective, all right, well, you know what? If you hate the color pink, you probably are going to hate my branding. You're probably going to hate this book. You're probably going to hate me. So again, it's going to repel you. If you're that triggered by a color, then fine. So in other words, there's a difference between showing up in your branding that factors in those three things that I spoke about. But it's more importantly, if it's authentic to you, then do it. And that's the whole message here is, I can't tell you that you have to use these colors in your branding. It's got to come out from you of what's authentic to you and your brand. Now, there's another factor that you want to take a look at, which is, so for example, you look at colors or even outfits in context of the environment. So let's just say that, we all know the color. Let's just use color, for example, right? We all know that red can be a really powerful color. It can also be a negative color if you're in the financial industry. So you want to look at color and imagery in context of the industry that you're in.
Wow, that just blew my mind. That is powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, no, it's that. Now, here's the thing. You can also use color as a strategy to differentiate yourself. Let's look at cell phone companies, right? What color does Verizon typically use? Red and black, right? What color does AT&T use? Blue.
Blue, white, yeah.
Yeah, T-Mobile, pink.
Pink.
So sometimes
and I have T-Mobile, baby.
You have T-Mobile, so
yeah,
clearly
I love pink.
You love pink. So so you can use color and imagery as a strategy to differentiate yourself and be a statement for what kind of brand you are. If you're a conservative brand that likes to play safe, then build a brand that's blue. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, for example.
Yeah.
Build a brand that kind of looks like everyone else. So it really is more, your question is, it's a great question, and it's a complex question when you really look at all the variables. But the truth and the simplicity in the answer really comes from really getting clear on what's authentic and what just feels right to your brand.
Yeah, yeah. And then also what feels authentic for you, and then also what's going to allow you to connect in to people
right.
that have similar values. And you're absolutely right. Like the reason why you and I are friends is because we have a similar set of belief systems, values about how we want to show up in life, what we want to get out of life, that cause us to be connected to one another. You know, I mean, for one thing, the one area that we're different though is you have a really bad sense of humor and I have a good one. So,
well, case in point that you're so awesome, Sterling. But I would like to think that that's probably more of a reason. That's one of several reasons why we get along. I mean, it's our values, but like you really, just on that point, it's like, yeah, I like to surround myself with other brands, whether it's a personal brand or a business brand, that is doing something that is purposeful, meaningful, and it's about making an impact. And that's how you show up to me. You know, that's the perception that you create. That's who you are in community. The fact that you're doing this interview, it's for a community. It's to help to serve people. So that's really what you should be playing. It's more than just like, what should my logo look like? Mm-hmm. It's like, what's my ethos? What's my stand? And what am I standing for?
I think that's so brilliant. So many people have such a limited view of branding, and let's face it. I mean, I was there for the first couple of years of my career. I thought, I don't care about branding because whatever, a logo is what is a logo. Like, it's a dime a dozen, not a big deal. Who cares? But the way that you're talking about branding and you're helping coach business owners, businesses about branding is it's really getting them in touch with who they are as people, who they are as leaders, who they want to be seen as business people, not just with a logo or with, you know, the color of their clothing, but how they want to be perceived on an emotional level.
That's right.
By the people that follow them. Like for me, for example, like part of my brand ethos is I'm weird, I'm goofy. Like I'm very expressive, I'm out there. And I attract, as a result, people that are also a little weird, a little goofy, like not very self-contained. They're kind of like the hand raised, yep, I'm a weirdo too. Like those are the people that I love to hang out with. Okay, I'm not going to be with the person that's super conservative, like in a box, just super steady going through life. Like not that person. That person is going to see my shit and be like, this guy is a psycho. Like I'm going to go find somebody normal to learn from. But when I learned that being more of who I am actually allows me to have more fun at work and attract people that I have fun with, man, that was such a breakthrough for me. That was huge. So,
yeah, okay.
So let's do this. As we start to wrap this up, I just want to encourage everyone to go get a copy of the book, Your Brand Should Be Gay. They can get it on Amazon, I'm sure. You know, they can get the paperback or the Kindle. I'm a Kindle reader. I already got it on Kindle. So I like my digital books. But by the way, you going to do an audiobook for this?
That is on the pipeline because there's a whole audience of people who like the Audible and they want to hear my voice doing it. And there's also a huge group of people who actually want the physical hardcover book for those who just, even if it's just like a statement book, you know, there's just certain books you're like, I just got to own the hardcover of it. How many books are you going to see with pink and so forth? So it is kind of a statement book in a way.
Yeah.
So people do like the hardcover, but in terms of consumption, that would be the next phase. You can find all your options on yourbrandshouldbegay.com. It's just yourbrandshouldbegay.com. You can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It takes you to the direct link, or whatever outlet. If you're international, there's many different ways that you can order it, but soon to come, Audible.
Okay. So the hardback does exist now. It's not just paperback.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to get the hardback version. Hell yeah. It's absolutely a statement book. All my favorite books I get in hardback.
Yeah.
It's just better. And I'm going to buy this on Audible as soon as you release it, man. I want to hear your silky smooth tones reading the book to me while I go on a walk. Okay. So just one more question, Reed, for the person that maybe is a little more advanced business owner and, you know, they've heard this interview, you know, they're going to pick up the book, but they also want to work on a higher level with you and your team, you know, with your agency to kind of build out their brand, get their ethos right. Where would you send that person to kind of get more information about working with you?
Yeah. So my agency is called Branding for the People. So yeah, just go to brandingforthepeople.com. And even if that sort of might be a bit daunting, put a little /resources. after that URL. So brandingforthepeople.com/resources. And you'll see some of our top 4 digital guides that people love. You can download that for free. One of them is giving you the branding blueprint. A very favorite one of ours is sort of like 7 steps to a new name. I can't tell you how many times people come to us like, what should my company be called? Or I'm expanding the company. Our name is not going to take us to the next level if they're a bit more advanced and they want help with naming. So there's a lot of free resources there. And then from that ecosystem, you could, if you want to schedule a call with our team, feel free to do that on that side as well.
So good, man. I'm going to take those resources and put them in my program because people always ask me, they're like, how the hell do I name this thing? Okay. So that's awesome. I'm going to go get some resources myself from your site. All right. So Rhea, I just want to acknowledge you, man. Thanks for taking time, and thanks for being such a brilliant voice for branding in our industry, and someone that really is authentic, really is kind, genuine, knowledgeable. I mean, you know as well as I do, man. Not everyone that's leading a good company in this industry like really is who they propose to be on the outside in the business world. They're not always that way behind off camera or off the internet.
Yeah.
But you are, man. You're a gem, and I love not only knowing who you are, having you do stuff with my students, but also being my friend too. So acknowledge you, brother. And one day I want to be an author like you, and
you will.
And then have an Audible book too. All right, just like you're gonna have. Put me on the pre-sale list. All right. So
well, once you do, it'll be life changing.
Yes. All right, man. Well, let's do the sign off together.
All right.
It's pretty simple. We say peace, love, and gains.
Okay.
Are you ready to do it? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm a fast learner.
You are, for sure. 3, 2, 1. Peace.
Peace.
Love. And gains. Baby. Woo!